some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. Jesus took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. When Jesus had spit on his eyes and put his hands on him, Jesus asked, "Do you see anything?" The man looked up and said, "I see people, but they look like trees walking around." Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes. Then his eyes were opened, his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Jesus sent him home saying, "Don't even go into the village."
You don't know what it was like. I was blind. I've seen some of your blind people. I've talked to them. They got to go to school. They got to learn to read with their fingers. I think they called it Braille. People love them. One even had a dog. And the dog would show them around. The dog liked them. They could go to concerts. They were almost normal. You'd think people cared about them. You'd think maybe people loved them. They were almost like you. But it was never that way for me. People said God must hate me, that I would be born blind. You ever been scared of the dark? That was my life. That was my world. I've met other people, that were healed. Some were deaf. The ones God really hated were lepers. None of us could come to church. We couldn't even be with our families often. I was lucky. I had a family. They couldn't do much for me. You have things called doctors and hospitals. We didn't have those. But my family would take me to by the shops, and they would find me a good place to sit where the sun wouldn't burn me all day long. And I would hold out my hands. It wasn't just kids, They would sometimes sneak up, and I never knew what it was they put in my hand. Donkey dung one time. They thought it was so funny and they laughed and they ran away. But even adults would do that. And I would cry out for people's pity. And some would give me coins. My parents taught me at the end of the day, when I would go and hope I had enough for some bread, to smell the bread, to make sure they weren't giving me moldy bread, bad bread. But my parents, they said they'd heard stories of deaf people who could now hear, of lame people who were raised up and could run, blind people who could see. Then they told me that Jesus was coming our way. And I got scared. Do I holler out? I heard that made some people, even his students, his disciples, angry. Be quiet, shush. But I feared that he would walk by. It's a strange thing being blind. You're invisible. I would sit there. Nobody knew my name. Nobody knew I was even there. Sometimes that worked for me, though. I could sit there and they wouldn't see me, and I could listen to what they were saying. I heard Pharisees very, very angry. They thought that this Yeshua, you call him Jesus, thought they were blind. They didn't want to be thought of like me, somebody cursed by God. They really got angry at this Jesus. But I also heard the other people that said he looked at you with love, even if you were a tax collector. My parents came and got me. I didn't really have to worry about, should I cry out, oh Jesus, Jesus, save me? They took me to him. And they asked him to put his hands on me. And he did. And he leaned over and he asked me, do you want to see? He asked me, do you want to see? Of course, I said. Please. Please. He put his hands on my face. He spit on me. But not like others who would spit on me because I was cursed of God. He spit on my eyes and he rubbed it in. And then he wiped them off and he said, open your eyes. Can you see? I had never seen light before. And the light was, I've heard the word golden. I think it was golden. But people were just shadows. I could hear them moving by. I could hear them whispering. I could imagine them pointing and wondering. But I couldn't make them out. So he put his hands back on my face and he covered my eyes. Have you ever felt loved by someone who touched your pain and you could feel their care? Just that was a miracle. And then, like flaps covering my eyes, he took his hands off and I could see him smile. I'd heard the word smile. As a little boy, I would touch my mother's lips. And I can tell if she was frowning. I could touch her eyes and see if she was crying. But I could see him smile. And he was smiling at me. And I had to feel my own lips. I was grinning. That's a smile, but great big, my teeth were sticking out. There was a little boy next to him, had an apple. I've always heard that apples were red. I had no idea. I tried to imagine if that meant shiny or fuzzy, red. And I got to see red. And then I remembered the sky is blue. Blue. It was a miracle. No longer afraid of the dark. No longer digging. Trying to get through life with no idea. Only my imagination and what I could hear. I'm told that I was different than the lepers and the deaf people. You know, they were healed like that. It took 2 times to heal me. It took longer, but he did it. He did it. Can you see? Can you see that I'm smiling? I shouldn't even be talking to you, you know. He told me, don't go into the town. Don't talk to people about this. They won't understand and they'll get the wrong idea. But I couldn't help myself. I could see people. You know, you're more different than I thought you were from each other. I thought, in my imagination, you all looked the same. Well, some were girls and some were boys. But you're all different. And I love seeing people. And I can't help telling them, I see you and you see me. And it's a miracle. My life changed forever. I hope that I don't go blind again. I hope this is not just a glimpse. I hope for you that you have seen the Meshiach, the Messiah, that you've seen Yeshua, Jesus. Maybe you're thinking, I haven't had a miracle like that poor fella. If you went up and you had the blood of Jesus, you tasted it. If you saw the bread and ate it, if you saw the cross and knew you were forgiven, that's a miracle. It should change your life forever. Do you see? I always wondered what it meant to open the eyes of my heart, because I couldn't open my eyes. But with my heart I could hear, I could feel, I could touch. I could kind of hear whether people cared about me or not. May you see the Jesus, Son of God, they say, Messiah, they say. May he open the eyes of your heart. May he let you see in new ways what it means that he's forgiven you and that he loves you. I know, I wasn't supposed to tell you that, but I couldn't help it. It is such a miracle. And I'll let you know something. I knew he'd forgive me. I've made his life harder. Everybody comes to him now for healing. But I just couldn't help saying thank you. May he touch you with his love and his forgiveness like he touched me. Look for it. See him.